Hey friends, it's Kari from the Alford Homestead, and today we are planting trees. So I'm going to give you our process and how we plant our trees. So we buy bare root trees. This is what they look like. They are a lot smaller than the big potted trees you find at your local nursery, but they're also a lot more economical. They cost about $10 a piece. So when you're planting a whole orchard, you definitely get your bang for your buck. The first tip that I wanted to say is contrary to what we would think we would want to do, we want to plant in a square hole rather than a cone-shaped hole. This is going to help ensure that the roots go a little bit more outwards rather than kind of circling downwards. So they'll find those corners and they'll kind of get in there instead of just kind of going straight down to the bottom. So this is kind of what it looks like, and you just want just enough size to fit the roots. Just take a look at the roots that you have. Like, this hole is definitely too big. I like to use a stick or something as like a level, and you place it over your hole just to kind of get an idea of where your plant should be resting. So I'm going to backfill this hole until I reach to the point where the roots are just going to be level with the ground. Now, if you're buying a potted plant, keep in mind that you're going to want to loosen up that root ball in there. Hopefully it's not root bound, but that's kind of the problem or the risk that you take on when you buy a potted plant. And you might need to really do some trimming. If you don't do some major trimming, you might have a tree that's susceptible to wind rock. And I will show you guys in a minute what that looks like, but it's very damaging for the plant. It not only causes it to have a gap between the plant and the ground, so then you have this gap that's susceptible to collecting water in the winter and freezing, but also it's just not going to secure itself into the ground very well. It's going to be rocking in the wind. So we want to really avoid that with these potted trees by bracing them, pruning them back as much as possible, and making sure that maybe you have them planted up against a structure like a brick wall or a windbreak of some sort. Okay, so now I've just got those roots down there. And again, if this is a potted plant, you don't want to bury the grafted section. All potted plants, potted trees rather, have a grafted section to it that you want to make sure is above the ground. These bare root trees do not, they are not grafted. We are just going to cover those roots, loosening up the soil. And because these are native plants to our area, we're just using the soil that we took out. In my opinion, and gardening philosophy in general, is that less is more. So we're really working with our natural environment and our natural soil composition. We are going to be adding some minerals and some compost, but that's about it. So we're really trying to work with what we have rather than changing the soil composition and everything. So, and that's because these plants are native to us. So if you're not working with a plant that's particularly native to your area, you're going to have to do a lot more work to ensure its survival. So I'm just, again, going with my hands and loosening it up. And during this whole time, you want to make sure you're pressing down. You do not want air bubbles, or air pockets rather. You want to compact everything down as best as possible. Now the next layer that we're gonna add is a layer of compost or manure. Whatever you have on hand will work. We've just got some horse manure that's mixed in with some straw, and we're just going to put a good couple of shovelfuls down here. Again, you can use compost, anything that's going to help fix some nitrogen into the soil will work here. Rabbit manure, chicken manure, anything like that will work here. And then you can add your supplements on top of this. So if you're adding anything else like minerals, add it to the top rather than incorporating it into the hole, because the theory is that the plant roots need to be searching for nutrients and not staying comfortable in their little area with all the nutrients. You want them to spread out as much as possible. And by putting your minerals and additives on the top, that not only helps to ensure that your roots are going to be seeking more outwards, but that it's also going to slowly over time add those minerals and fertilizers to the soil. This is a pear tree. This is an example of that wind rock because these were potted trees that we bought. You can see that gap, that huge gap. So we're actually going to work on backfilling that gap this spring and just making sure that that tree does not rock in its area. That will cause a lot of damage to the tree over time and just not be a very vigorous tree if we don't tackle that immediately. So that's what we're trying to avoid. That's another reason why bare root plants are so nice, because you don't have to brace them. They're so small as it is. They grow over time with their root structure so that they don't rock, they don't get top heavy like that. Now just make sure that when you're putting everything down that you're not suffocating the tree. Just keep a nice little area around the tree clear, not touching the tree itself. And we're going to lay down a weed suppressor, and in this case it's going to be cardboard because that will break down very nicely over time and help to ensure that number one, we lock in moisture, but number two, that we are reducing the amount of weeds and grass that's going to be trying to push up this spring. That's the last thing that you want to have to battle. And just make sure that you soak this as well. That's very important that you're soaking your cardboard when you're laying it down. You can also use multiple layers of newspaper here. I would just make sure that whatever you use is going to be a natural material that's not plastic, because you want to add over time natural organic materials into your soil that are going to help release nutrients over time to your plants. And plastic is just the last thing that you want to have decomposing with your plants. Little pieces of plastic around your trees that you're going to be eating from, it's just not our thing. So to cover that, we are going to use our mulch. Now again, you can use a variety of different, whatever you have on hand will work. So pine needles is a good one, dried leaves is a good one, straw, anything without seed heads. So I would avoid using grass clippings unless it's been sitting there for a good while and you know that all of those seed heads are dead. So the mulch is going to be threefold. Again, we're suppressing the weeds and other plants that are going to try and steal nutrients from the tree. But we're also going to be ensuring that we have water retention so that we don't have to water these trees all the time. We don't have to baby them so much. But also, as they break down over time, they are going to slowly add nutrients that the plant will utilize as it grows. So this is generally what it looks like. I like to do a nice big heavy mound because this will settle over time a lot. So just do more than you think that you need. All right, that's one down and 11 more to go. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll see you guys next time.